A real astrophysicist recently shared a rather surprising opinion. Marvel's science is better than DC's. That is the actual public stance of Neil deGrasse Tyson. It sounds like a strange endorsement when you remember we are talking about a cinematic universe featuring a man who shrinks to the size of a bug and a giant green rage monster who routinely ignores the basic laws of thermodynamics. To test Tyson's claim, we are going to measure the Avengers against this spectrum of plausibility. We'll rank these heroes along this scale to see who actually survives a collision with real-world physics. Validating that stance means separating the characters whose powers are built on actual scientific foundations from the ones who just use science as an excuse to break reality. We start at the top of the plausibility spectrum with Tony Stark. Iron Man possesses absolutely zero superpowers. He is simply an extremely intelligent, extremely wealthy engineer. While the glowing arc reactor in his chest is a fictional device, the pursuit of a compact, high-output power source, like miniaturized fusion or advanced battery tech, is a very active field in modern engineering. The same goes for his armor. Powered exosuits already exist in current medical and military research. They certainly can't achieve supersonic flight or shrug off bullets just yet, but the underlying mechanics are functioning in labs today. That makes Iron Man the most scientifically plausible hero on the roster. His technology doesn't violate the laws of physics, it just represents a level of engineering that arrived a few hundred years ahead of schedule. Moving one tier down the spectrum, we enter the realm of biological manipulation with Spider-Man and Captain America. The concepts here are rooted in reality. Radiation genuinely alters DNA, and tools like CRISPR are actively advancing the field of gene editing. The issue is the timeline. Real genetic mutation is a clumsy process that takes generations to manifest. It does not produce a flawless, overnight upgrade to an adult human skeleton, or suddenly install silk glands where there were none. Then there's the wall crawling. Real spiders manage this using seta, tiny hair-like structures on their legs that exploit weak molecular attractions known as van der Waals forces. This diagram illustrates the mathematical problem with scaling that ability up. For a human-sized Spider-Man to actually support his own weight on a vertical surface, he would need enormous sticky pads covering roughly 40% of his total body, not just his fingertips and toes. These heroes are effectively biological speedruns. They borrow completely valid scientific concepts, but then apply an impossible, instantaneous timeline to their execution. Further down the spectrum, we run into the physics breakers. Characters like the Hulk and Ant-Man run entirely afoul of a foundational rule, the conservation of mass. If the Hulk drastically increases in size but retains his human mass, his density drops to a cork. He'd bounce off concrete. Conversely, if Ant-Man shrinks while keeping adult mass, he becomes denser than a neutron star, plummeting straight through the Earth's crust. We see similar physics problems when the Avengers attempt space-time manipulation. Opening a theoretical wormhole to jump across space or time would require exotic matter with a negative energy density, a completely hypothetical substance we've never actually observed outside of mathematical equations. This is the tier where the illusion of science starts to crack. Marvel borrows the vocabulary of quantum mechanics and astrophysics, but they quietly discard the math that would ruin the plot. Finally, at the very bottom of the plausibility spectrum, we have the outliers like Thor and Doctor Strange. Their powers bypass any attempt at laboratory science entirely, relying instead on ancient mysticism, spellcasting, or being a literal deity from another realm. These characters represent a different narrative choice, where science was never invited to the table, providing a necessary layer of variety to the universe. Which brings us back to Neil deGrasse Tyson's original assertion that Marvel beats DC in the science department. Tyson argues that Marvel has the edge because their powers usually stem from a specific event, like a lab accident, a genius invention, or a dose of radiation. In contrast, many DC icons like Superman are simply born with their abilities, arriving from other planets fully loaded with powers that lack a clear scientific explanation. Marvel succeeds by taking real concepts and asking, what if we just kept going? Creating a style of storytelling that feels like enthusiastic science fiction. If you enjoy deep dives into the mechanics of pop culture, subscribing to the channel is the best way to see more of them. And if this video earned it, leaving a like genuinely helps more people find our work. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.